Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Laces Out podcast, our American football podcast. That's right. And it's happening. Our first live guest of the season. That's right. We promise you guests, we bring you guests. It's that simple. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Share the podcast around. That's the big one. Share the podcast around. If you've got an NFL fan in your life, send them this podcast. They might even thank you for it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces out.
Recording in progress.
I have to believe what the lady says, because otherwise there'll be carnage. So, apparently recording is in progress, and that can only mean that it's some kind of podcast. Now then, YouTube viewers will be like, it's the football podcast, because it's a three-man football podcast these days. Kind of right. Not fully right. I am joined by the most glamorous co-host anybody could hope for, Mr. Paul Williams, and we as a unit have our first guest of the 2023-2024 NFL season, Mr. Matthew Moore. 3 M's. How are you, sir?
Very good, yeah, good start to the season. Weird start to the season, but good start to the season.
A little icebreaker to get things going, how do you feel about the 49ers this season? Will we be seeing them in the Super Bowl?
Oh, well, I don't want to spoil my predictions later, but it's looking promising.
This is absolutely true. Obviously, we don't want to preempt going through the game picks from last week, but they are amongst the teams that do find themselves 2-0 through 2 weeks. So worst things have happened. Let's put it that way. But as Mr. Cook has alluded to there, or as Mr. Moore has alluded to there, we'll come to him now for his season-long predictions. So he may have given away half of his Super Bowl, or has he? So if I was to push you for an AFC and an NFC team to contest the final game of the season, where would your money be at this particular time?
I've kind of gone. I think if it was like right now, it'd be slightly different. But I'm kind of projecting down the line. So I have gone NFC. I've gone 49ers, and it's a bit of a homer pick, but it's also I do think they're the best team in the league, and that's not purely a homer pick. I think they genuinely are. Possibly quarterback aside, they're the best team in the whole of football, not just NFC.
They're probably the most complete team when you sort of look at it. Again, maybe not at the quarterback position, but that's potentially through their own doing.
God, yeah. The thing is, though, you look at that. You look at the Trey. Go back to the Trey Lance kind of thing, and what I'd say is, outside of Trevor Lawrence, and even Trevor Lawrence isn't setting the world alight at the moment. Anybody else in that draft class? Zach Wilson? No. Mac Jones? No. You're kind of looking down. I think was Ridder Atlanta, was he in that draft?
No, was Riddle last year?
I'm sure he was like.
I've got a suspicion that Riddle was drafted last year, but was like a second rounder.
Yeah, like late first, early second, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because there was only the one quarterback taken on. There was only Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh that was taken first round last year.
So,
yeah. You're absolutely right. Trey Lance didn't exactly pull up any trees, but I mean, wasn't really given a chance.
Jimmy G gets injured a lot. Trey Lance also got injured and wasn't given opportunity to develop. And I think the Niners are on a timeline of it'd be nice to give him time to develop, but he's not going to develop quickly enough to be there with Deebo and McCaffrey and the people that they bought in that are high earners now. So, and Brock Purdy is doing the job pretty well. So I've got 49ers for the NFC, and I just can't shake the Bills. I think the Bills are still, once they kind of get their stuff sorted. Now, most people at this point will probably go Dolphins. I just don't think that team's going to stay healthy for the full 17 games, and certainly not the 21 games that you need to win a Super Bowl now.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes for that team to implode is for Tua to take a slightly wrong touch to the head at some point, and that's pretty much their season over. So
the biggest issue I've got with the Dolphins is I love watching Dolphins football week in, week out. So the problem I've got is I'm like, oh, I love this. This is great. This is fantastic. And every week I'm like, what's going to go wrong? Like I was saying to the stats mistress at the weekend, I was like, how long has it been since the Patriots beat the Dolphins?
So I didn't realise until they threw up the stat. But so Tua's 7-0 against, I think.
7-0.
He's won every single time he's played the Patriots.
Yeah, he's never lost to the Patriots in his career.
Like, there's a lot of things that obviously like Belichick will be sort of at the top of the list for and stuff like that. I know he needs to win. Is it something like he needs to win another 70? No. I think he basically needs to win a full season, or maybe one more, and that would put him above Don Shula as the most wins of all time. So the question just remains: is he just hanging around to basically get all the most wins, and then he's going to retire? But obviously, he's just not been able to. The Dolphins have had the Pats number for the last 7 times, so that is a strange one.
The insanity of his coaching staff, I think, has been with the Pats for the past. Last year was just mental. Matt Patricia being your offensive coach when we knew he wasn't a good coach, and he was a defensive coach before. But then everybody knew that Belichick is a defensive coach. But yeah, Miami, it is that kind of thing of Jalen Waddle's already injured. Tyreek doesn't always stay healthy all the time. He very rarely plays 17 games. It's just whether Mike, their coach, is just this mad genius that he appears to be, kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'm going kind of a little bit safe, but a little bit kind of left field at the moment because they kind of had a slow start to the season. But I've gone with the Bills, and then that feeds into my MVP because if the Bills are going to win or going to go to the Super Bowl, then I think Josh Allen will be the MVP.
Now, of the Super Bowl or of the season?
Of the regular season.
Okay. So, of the two, so Bills 49ers Super Bowl, who do you think will win it?
I think I'd probably go 49ers, I think.
Okay. Because I've made the mistake of writing Josh Allen in game MVP box, but I don't think he means that. So the San Francisco 49ers to win the Super Bowl. And who do you think would be the game MVP?
I'm going to go Joey Bosa.
So, I can't remember, but was the last time that it was won by a defensive player?
It was
Von Miller?
Bill, no.
Von Miller. It was
Von
Von Miller
Miller
at the
for
Bills
Denver.
when he was playing for the Broncos.
Yeah.
But it's not a terrible pick. I mean, I think if the Niners get to the Super Bowl and he has the game that he kind of has had for the first 2 weeks of the season, I can't envisage a scenario where it's not given to Christian McCaffrey if they win.
That was my thinking, and then I was like, they're probably not going to give it to Purdy. Because he's a game manager and he's not going to do anything spectacular.
Yeah.
You've got that kind of Christian McCaffrey. Could it be Debo if Debo has a kind of all-purpose yards kind of thing?
Yeah.
And I thought, but then if the Niners are to win it, it's probably going to be on defense. And if Bosa's sacking Josh Allen 5 times and just being a disruptor like he is, then I think. I know the Steelers don't look any great shakes after the second week, but that first week, even with Bosa kind of not fully being there because he just signed a new contract, they made the Steelers look really, really ordinary. That it was disgusting. The first sack on Pickett, there was like 2 of them just. It was like they might as well have just played like a quick rock paper scissors to see who could absolutely nail him before they took him, because there was nobody nearby to kind of stop it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a beatdown. So obviously this is the first time we've had a season 1 prediction from any of the guests so far this season. So that is a Bills Niners Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers and Joey Bosa to be the game MVP, to go alongside my Bengals Eagles with the Eagles winning the game and Hurts to be the MVP, and Andy's Chiefs Eagles, Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes to be the MVP. For the regular season MVP, I've gone in a very similar vein to how you've just picked. I've gone for Joe Burrow to be the regular season MVP. Obviously, if the Bengals do get to the Super Bowl, it'll probably be because he will have had an incredible season. It's not started that way so far, but we'll see. It might get better. I think Andy might already be out of the race, as he did pick Aaron Rodgers.
Oh no.
It was an inspired choice at the time I made it, because I was like, he's gonna have this whole like, I've got something to prove and I've got to get it done, and then went out. Now he's slated to return. He's had experimental surgery, which allegedly can get him back in the game in January.
And he's been listening to, what was it, dolphin sex noises and stuff like that. Been rubbing whale jizz into his ankle as well. Did you not see that on the McCaffrey pod?
Oh, McAfee. Pat
McAfee thing. And obviously it was totally tongue in cheek, because obviously he's kind of leading into this. He's a bit of a crank kind of idea. But he was like, oh yeah, I'm listening to, they say that dolphin sounds and dolphin sex sounds can help cure, help speed up recovery and injury. So I think it's kind of leading into obviously the Mickey taking of the kind of dark, what was it, the dark therapy that he was doing over the summer that lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one part of the body that I wouldn't want experimental surgery done on, it is the tiny little bit of tendon that holds basically your entire fucking leg together.
Oh, no.
no thanks. But it might work out for the big man. What can we say? So, that is our season-long predictions done and dusted. So, that brings us to game week 2 and the picks that myself, Mr. Cook, and our guest from last week, Stats Mistress, made. So, obviously we're still within the first couple of weeks of the season, so every team is playing, so 16 games up predicting. In third place, with 11 out of 16 selections correct, very, very respectable, it is Mr. Andrew Cook. Sadly, only let down by the Packers at the Falcons, the Lions at home to the Seahawks, the Chargers at the Titans, the Broncos at home to the Commanders, and the Browns at the Steelers. Second, with 12 of 16 selections correct. Another very respectable score. Mr. Paul Williams being let down by the Bengals at home to the Ravens, the Lions at home to the Seahawks, the Chargers at the Titans, and the Browns at the Steelers. Therefore, winning the week for the guest with 13 of 16 selections spot on the money. It is the stats mistress herself, Mr. Trevor Davies. Well played, sir. Well played. You'll have to pass on the good message.
I will pass on the news that she brought it home. She'll be elated.
Indeed. So, all that's left. Well, sorry, I'll update the scores. So, I still yet to get off the mark for the season. Mr. Cook, having tied with the guest from week 1, is currently on half a point, and the guest moves clear with 1.5 points for the season so far. That just leaves the side bet. So, well, that noise can only mean one thing.
That somebody's excited to find out about the side bet.
It must be our brand new segment, ladies and gentlemen. It's what's Matt's dog up to this week?
Which part of his body is he scratching now?
So, side bet. Obviously, for those who are just new to the podcast, this is the section of the show where Philip and Andy pick 4 teams that we think are absolute bankers to win each week. As soon as a team is picked, it takes the game off the board, and then at the end of the season, we see how far we are apart in selections and whatnot. Each week, 4 points up for grabs, tallied over the season. So, this week in the side bet, Mr. Cook selected the Chargers to beat the Titans. Not great. He did, however, have the Chiefs to beat the Jaguars, the Eagles to beat the Vikings, and the Dolphins to beat the Patriots. So he gets himself 3, count them, 3 50 points. Can anyone say clean?
Oh, you absolute.
I had the Bills to beat the Raiders, the Bucks to beat the Bears, the Giants to beat the Cardinals, Cowboys to beat the Jets. Some of those games were a little closer than I probably wanted. The Bucks had let the Bears back in at some point, which was a bit of a crazy game. And the Giants, did they put themselves into a 20-point hole against the Cardinals?
At one stage, I think their season had started 61-0. They were 61 points down in total if you took in the Dallas game. So I did notice that they'd gone for the first time. I don't know if it was in franchise history or if it was the first time under Brian Daboll and stuff like that.
but it was the first time they'd gone 6 consecutive quarters without as much as a field goal. Because obviously they were trailing at the half to the Cardinals. But they did manage to pull it around there. So, after 2 weeks of the side bet, Andy has 4 points. I have 7 points. So, very much early days. Still all to play for. But come back for more. It's just part and parcel of it, ladies and gentlemen. So, that means we move into game week 3. And we do not move into game week 3. I do apologise. As per usual, the stats mistress has, I believe, done her due diligence as always, and provided us with some information about week 2 games.
So, as always, I like to give credit where credit is due, and yet again, stats mistress pulling out the win at 0 hour was like, leave it with me, and then magically produced a hefty lineup of stats. So a big shout out to the stats mistress. Gonna go out on a limb and say also need to shout out Nate Davis, but hasn't been credited, so that may not be the case. As Paul said, this is the stats for week 2, 2023 season. I've dished it out, shared the love. Paul has the lion's share with, I believe, 5 stats, whereas myself and Matthew have just 4. Kicking off with stat number 1 of week 2. Same story, different uniform, ? After being sacked a league high 55 times in 2022, Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson went down 7 times on Sunday. He was never sacked fewer than 30 times in Seattle and has been bagged at least 40 times in every year entering 2023, save 2. If I'd have read this stat before I dished out the stats, I'd have given this stat to somebody else. With a team best 56 yards on the ground, Wilson topped 5,000 for his career. Just the 3rd quarterback in NFL history to do so, as he joined Michael Vick and Cam Newton. Number 3. On the flip side, credit the Commanders for crafting their first 2-0 start in a dozen years after surmounting an 18-point second quarter deficit. Not gonna lie, kind of liking what the Commanders are doing at the moment. And number 4, my final stat for this week. For the 2nd consecutive season, the Cincinnati Bengals are 0-2. Since his offense looked better in Sunday's loss to the division rival Ravens after nearly getting shut out by Cleveland in week 1. But wide receiver Jamar Chase continues to be virtually invisible with 10 catches for 70 yards on the season. And quarterback Joe Burrow aggravated his training camp calf injury. Before moving on to other stats, I was saying to the stats mistress, honestly, having lost week 1, I personally think one of the worst games the Bengals could go into week 2 was up against the Ravens. So I didn't feel overly bad. I don't think that there was a loss there, any of that sort of stuff. One thing I was going to bring up is, has anybody seen all the memes of Joe Burrows for the now he's signed his contract memes? A personal, I don't know if favourite's the right word, but a personal whatever is the Spider-Man meme that's got Tobey Maguire with doing the glasses thing. And he's looking and it looks like Joe Burrows, and then he puts the glasses on. And it's Andy Dalton. Over to you, Paul.
Wow, that's quite damning.
It's cold, isn't it? It's real
I
cold.
will continue with the New England Patriots are 0-2 for the first time since 2001, ending a 22-year streak of avoiding the offer that was the longest. Ending a 22-year streak of avoiding the offer that was the longest since the 1970 AFL-NFL merger. Second point, the New York Giants started their season by being outscored 60-0 through 6 quarters, which we covered in the game inadvertently. Impressive. The Giants fought back from a 28-7 third quarter deficit at Arizona on Sunday to beat the Cardinals 31-28 and salvage a 1-1 start. New York. The city so nice they named it twice. Or in the Dallas Cowboys case, the city they embarrassed in successive weeks, following their 40-0 whitewashing of the Giants by sweeping the Aaron Rodgers-less Jets 30-10 on Sunday. Yet like the cross-state Jets, the Giants may be experiencing their first victory at great cost. Star running back Saquon Barkley, 92 total yards with 2 touchdowns, injuring an ankle late in Sunday's comeback, which could be especially costly given the Giants play again this Thursday at San Francisco. And my final stat, on his 28th birthday, reigning league and Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs superstar, passed for 305 yards and a pair of touchdowns. It was his 42nd career 300-yard passing game, most by any player in his first 9 seasons, after he surpassed Dan Marino and Matt Ryan. It should be noted that Mahomes is in his 7th season, 2 games in, to be specific, and made all of 1 appearance in his rookie year, which was 2017. So obviously he's doing this in 7 seasons, which is basically 6, because he didn't even start. Just crazy. Really, really crazy stats. Over to you, Matt, to finish it off.
Right then, first one, feels like a while to talk about this guy. Lions quarterback Jared Goff had a chance to break Rodgers' league record for most consecutive passes without an interception, 102. Unfortunately for Motown, Goff's run ended at 383, the 3rd longest ever, courtesy of a pick 6. What a way to do it. In a game, the Lions lost 37-31 to Seattle. Yeah, if you're going to throw away his interception, you might as well do it the proper way and kind of go full board with it. The Bills whipped the Las Vegas Raiders 38-10 to even both teams' records to 1-1. After a rough week off the field, the Bills showed what a dangerous team they can be. On it, 5 different players, none of them named Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs, scored touchdowns. Raiders running back Josh Jacobs rushed for -2 yards. It was the lowest total ever by a reigning rushing champ in the Super Bowl era. He did catch 5 passes for 1 yard, 1 yard. So the day wasn't a complete write-off for his many fantasy owners. Finally, for me, the Philadelphia Eagles' Jalen Hurts has multiple rushing touchdowns in 10 career games, including playoffs. He now is 1 shy of and his favourite, Cam Newton's all-time record among quarterbacks. And that is
Obviously, something that didn't get brought up in the stats was obviously the absolutely horrendous injury that was suffered by Nick Chubb in the Browns game against the Steelers. Didn't realise this until someone mentioned it on Twitter. The last 4 games that have been broadcast on Monday Night Football, Nick Chubb gets injured, Aaron Rodgers gets injured, I think, was it Tua got another concussion, and the one before that was the Damar Hamlin game. So people are saying, Jesus Christ, is Monday Night Football just cursed? So, like, who's the doubleheader this week? It's Eagles, Bucks, and Rams, Bengals. If you've got any of those players on your fantasy team, maybe bench them.
Like, pick out the most important one out of them lot, you know.
Yeah. Just horrible, isn't it? But that injury to Nick Chubb was absolutely horrific. And unfortunately, it's the same knee and the same leg that he injured in college in a very similar fashion. So just like the way that it twisted and contorted, I'll be amazed if there's any sort of ligaments or like stuff left intact in his knee, because it was I think it went sideways, it went around. It was bad. It was really bad.
I've not seen it, and I know like that was part of the thing coming out of college was that he had this terrible knee injury. And the worst thing is he's what, 28? It's a year to 18 months recovery. I know people come back quicker now, but with the way the running back position is treated now, got 1 year left on his deal. Yeah, I mean, it sounds awful. That might be the last time you see him in the league.
And like you say, if it's a year to 18 months, you may be even arguing that he might not even play any of the season after next at this point. Yeah. So I hope not, because I do have a bit of a soft spot for the Browns, and he is an incredible running back. He's just when he's breaking tackles, he's got a bit of like Seahawks era Marshawn Lynch to his game. And he just looks like an absolute monster. So fingers crossed, hopefully he makes a full recovery from it and he's back playing sooner rather than later. But it didn't look good. So that's week 2 done and dusted. Matthew and Andy have both very kindly supplied me with their picks for week 3. So we're going to go through those next, and then it's just left for me and Andy to pick our 4 games each for the side bet. We're just going to take a small break just before we do those selections, so we can, maybe have a little bite to eat, a little drink, maybe a little snack. Who knows? But you guys don't have to do anything, because on your feed, it'll be instantaneous. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back, and we'll give you some week 3 updates.
Recording in progress.
See, we told you, seamless transition. So, week 3. We open week 3 with a game that we actually mentioned in the stats when it was coming into the Saquon Barkley injury. And it is the New York Giants taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And I think even with a fully fit Saquon Barkley and a fully firing New York Giants offense, I think they'd be struggling to even lay a glove on the 49ers in this one, and that is reflected in the selections in this week's picks. As surprisingly enough, we've all gone for 49ers wins. The next game on the slate, we move to the Sunday night games, or the Sunday 6 p.m. afternoon games, as it were. The Colts travelling to the Ravens. We've all taken the Ravens. Next up is our first difference of opinion. So we've got the Titans at the Browns. Myself and Andy think the Browns will bounce back. Obviously they'll be without Nick Chubb, but fingers crossed they'll be able to get something going on the ground without him. There was talk actually, I think during the week, that Kareem Hunt was potentially meeting with the Browns, so might just end up back where he was.
I'm pretty sure they have finalised a deal today.
Oh, fair enough. There you go. So, in theory, it's very similar to the attack that they would have had on the ground last season, just minus the
Yeah,
cup.
it's on ESPN now.
Ah, very good. Matt, on the other hand, has picked the Titans to continue their good run. Obviously, they had the win against the Chargers in week 2. So Matt's gone for the win there. Next up, we've got the Falcons, the 2-0 Falcons, no less, which is rather strange to say, going up against the Detroit Lions, who were very unfortunate to lose against the Seattle Seahawks. The game-winning touchdown, probably a missed PI call for me. Aiden Hutchinson was definitely being held on his way towards the quarterback. Didn't really get flagged. Probably should have been. But we have all gone for the Lions to get the win in that one. Next up, it's another strange one. We've got the Saints at the Packers. I believe the Saints are also part of the 2-0 club, whereas the Packers are coming off the back of a loss against the Falcons. Myself and Andy are both in agreement on this one as well. We've taken the Saints to get the win here, whereas Matt's taken the Packers to bounce back. Is that just because they're at home, or...?
I don't know. Like, it's one of those ones where it's a bit of a toss of a coin one. I just don't like Derek Carr. I don't think he's a very good quarterback.
I just don't like Derek Carr. I've always quite liked Derek Carr. I've always thought he was a bit of an underrated quarterback. I'd say he's probably in that group of about 3 or 4 quarterbacks that's probably just a step below the sort of top level ones.
Oh God, he's Kirk Cousins, but probably worse for me.
Is it because he wears eyeliner?
Weirdest thing is, I agree with both of you. However, I have dropped him from my fantasy team this week. He's just not getting the points. He's walking out on the field, and whatever he's doing on the field, it's resulting in low scoring fantasy points. And there are other quarterbacks out there that were available on the waivers that were consistently, admittedly over 2 weeks, but consistently just wildly outscoring him. So, gotta go with the points there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Next up, we've got the Texans travelling to Jacksonville to take the Jags. Surprise enough, we've all taken the Jags. Broncos at Dolphins. We've all taken the Dolphins, and I don't think that's a particular shock, given how poorly the Broncos have started the season. And I don't know, at what point do we start getting to the idea that maybe Russell Wilson just doesn't have it anymore as a quarterback?
Well, some of the podcasts I've been listening to this week, they've been saying this might be his last game as a starting quarterback. This might be it. You know, they're paying Dittum $10 million a year to be a backup. A lot of money tied up in 2 quarterbacks there. And
it's not unreasonable to say that maybe he should start fighting for his job.
But is it not strange to sort of think that if he became available, is anyone out there thinking the Jets don't take a punt?
They probably will, but they probably shouldn't.
No, well, that's just it, innit? It's that strange situation where he's probably better than what they've got.
Yeah.
But, one, will the Broncos let him go? And 2, as me and Andy discussed on last week's show, are they potentially just going to get absolutely rinsed for draft picks and whatnot? And because teams know that they're pretty much desperate. They're in almost win now mode. So teams that are offering up quarterbacks are going to be basically trying to get as much as they can from the Jets.
The Jets, I just don't think the Jets can afford him. I think that's the main issue, because they've got $40 million tied up in Rodgers. I think they'll probably pick. I think they'll probably give it 2 or 3 weeks to see if somebody becomes available. like a good backup as opposed to a starter. I think.
I was saying this to a Steelers fan, and I'm not entirely convinced that there's not a market out there where they don't go in and say, "Can we have Mitch Trubisky on you?" To be honest with you, steady away quarterback. He's nothing fancy, but you know exactly what you're going to get with him. And arguably, he's a better quarterback than Zach Wilson is. So that'd be the way I'd be going. Anyway, we're getting away from the matter at hand. So we've all taken the Dolphins. Shock horror. Next up, we've got the Chargers at the Vikings. Now, I'm pretty sure you boys also had the same thought to me. We've all taken the Vikings, but I bet we all sat there for a second and were like, do we really put our faith in the Vikings to win that one?
It's the two teams that you're like, oh yeah, they're both gonna, it doesn't matter who you pick, it's gonna be the wrong one. So,
but it really is, isn't it? It's that sort of thing. Oh God, just this right here. I should have put it down as tie.
Yeah, I mean it's got that written all over it. Both of them missing kicks to tie it in overtime and just.
It's got strong, low scoring game, or potentially 51-51 or something like that. Because both defenses could just absolutely shit the bed. Both offenses could just go off. You know that you've got running backs on both sides that could have a monster game. It's both sneaky good and sneaky bad game of the week for me. But you just never know what you can get. Next up, we have the Patriots at the Jets. Mr. Cook is on his own here as he's taken the Jets on this one, whereas me and Matt have gone for the Patriots. Any particular reason why you think the Jets are going to get it done?
So, hear me out on this one. I was particularly interested in the Dolphins-Patriots game. So I sat down after, I think it was Monday, I sat Monday evening, I think I picked that as mine and the Stats Mistress's game to watch, like, to actually, get into. And there were times when the Patriots looked like they could have pulled it back, they could have won it, they could have turned the tide in the whole Patriots versus Dolphins thing. The Patriots quarterback is not good. And the Jets seem to be, of like all the teams, all that's going on in the league at the moment, the Jets just seem to be the team that is in the spotlight. And if you're in that position where you're trying to fill Rodgers' shoes, everybody was saying, like, when Rodgers went out, you've got to bear in mind there's 52 other men on that team. They're built in a certain way. They're not built to just lose week in, week out. I looked at the two elements and went, I've got a weird feeling about this one, and my weird feeling says that the Jets managed to do it. I'll probably be proved horrifically wrong. I just something made me think, don't go with the, I'll just put the Patriots down. Actually, you never know. Could be a point situation. Could be the thing that wins the week for me. You never know.
We all like a cheeky bet on this here pod, and there's two bets that I would put on in this game. Bet on a defensive touchdown at any point. I'd probably put money on the first touchdown being a defensive touchdown, because I like the defensive or special teams, because those are the two sides of the ball that both of these teams are good at. And both of those quarterbacks like to throw away interceptions. So I'll have that. And whatever so I think the total points, the kind of betting line for the total points is 37.5. I would bet the under on that as well. because I don't think these two teams are going to get out single figures. It's going to be a rock fight. It's going to be absolutely dire.
The only thing for me that's screaming in this game is, so the Patriots have started 0-2 for the first time since 2001, as we covered in the stats. Has Bill Belichick ever been 0-3?
I don't think so.
So, like, I mean, I know he was in charge of the Browns at some point, and obviously they weren't great, but I can't envisage a scenario where he allows, and bear in mind, for the past, like, sort of, like, decade or two, they have owned the Jets. They have absolutely owned that team. And they're at home. No, they're not. It's in New York. I just, for me, it just screams nightmare scenario for the Jets. But yeah. So me and Matt on the Patriots. Andy's on his own on the Jets. Next up, we've got the Bills at the surprisingly 2-0 Commanders. Don't think they're going to be the 3-0 Commanders, as we've all taken the Bills. Next up, we've got the Panthers at the Seahawks. No surprises there. We're all on the Seahawks. Panthers look not great. Obviously, they're in transition. They've got the number 1 overall pick from last season, playing a quarterback. But it's a rebuilding year for the Panthers, it is. So I don't think anyone's expecting anything major from them. We've got the Cowboys at the Cardinals. The Cowboys have started really well. I think the Cardinals should arguably be in play for the number 1 overall pick in the draft next season, along with things like the Texans. So that, no surprises, we've all gone for the Cowboys. Same again, Bears at Chiefs. We've all gone for the Chiefs. The Bears, they should have been another one that was in the market for the number 1 pick, because the Bears look dreadful through the first 2 games. They look absolutely appallingly bad. I saw a stat, I think it was on Facebook, that someone had compared the first however many starts of both Justin Fields and Mitchell Trubisky, and they had eerily similar stats, and it actually made Trubisky look like the better option at quarterback, which is worrying. Last 3 games, so the Sunday Night Football is Steelers at Raiders. I'm the only one who's taken the Raiders on this one. Andy and Matt have both taken the Steelers. Any particular reason why?
I don't think Vegas are good. I think and the Steelers have got to start doing something soon, or their season's going to go south quickly.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones, isn't it? Like Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season.
That's why I was going to say, never had a losing season. Is this really going to be the one that it's going to be?
Yeah, good point. I don't know. There's just like the Steelers are just like they've become one of those teams that just loses odd games when they shouldn't, and this just like sort of like strikes me as one of those games where they probably potentially might lose it.
I think I've applied your Belichick theory to that one. They're not going to go 0-3. I wouldn't have thought.
Oh, they beat the Browns though, so they're 1-1.
Oh, they 1-1. Oh, me getting
yeah.
It. Well, I'm going to stick with it, but I don't know why I thought they were 0-2.
No, they beat the Browns. To be fair, it was the last game of the week, so you might have just missed it, to be fair. So, again, we've got another double-header Monday Night Football for some strange reason. So it's the Eagles at the Bucks. Now, obviously, if this was the Tom Brady Buccaneers, you'd argue this probably would be quite a competitive fixture. As it's not, I know the Bucks have started okay in their first couple of games. In fact, are they 2-0? No. Are they 2-0? Yes, they are. So this is 2-0 teams going up against each other. We have all taken the Eagles, even though it's in Tampa. It's kind of a weird one. Like the way that they've started, I don't think I'd be surprised if the Bucks pulled this one out. Because the Eagles haven't looked great. They were a bit shaky in the first game. And I don't know how they played against the Vikings. I didn't see any of Thursday Night Football last week. But I don't know, that the Bucks don't look terrible to say that they've got Baker Mayfield as their quarterback.
They don't look terrible. And that feels strange, I think, for the reason you just gave. It's weird to be like, they look okay. Like I'd seen last week, they pulled out a few plays of Baker Mayfield playing like a different quarterback. I think he's stiff-armed someone off the side of the field at one point. It was like, who is this? So, yeah, 2-0 versus 2-0. Somebody's got to go 3-0. So,
Someone's always got to go. And finally, we see the Los Angeles Rams travelling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Now, this is a 1-1 team against a, someone would say, surprise 0-2 team. Even though the Rams haven't looked, they actually looked like they were putting up a bit of a fight against the 49ers, I thought, this in week 2. Probably made that game closer than it had any right to be. We've all taken the Bengals to get off the schneid and get themselves back to 1-2. Yeah, I mean, is this just going to be the game where like Jamar Chase has been quiet, Joe Burrow's been quiet? Is Burrow going to like throw for about 400 odd yards and Jamar Chase is going to get 250 of them or something like that?
they need to start getting something out of Joe Burrows, or they're going to start asking questions about whether the check's cleared yet.
Well, yeah.
The second half on Sunday, they'll start it to look like last year's Bengals offense. It started to really kind of start to cook, and Higgins and Boyd were getting open. And Chase didn't have the best game, but I thought everyone came out at the end of it like, oh, they lost. But I was like, that second half they started to look a little bit tasty.
Yeah, watch your space, ladies and gentlemen. Could be a decent Monday Night Football. So that's week 3's game picks done. All that's left is for me and Andy to dive in and take the old side bet selections. As Mr. Cook is still behind in the race, I will let him again have the option of choosing first or putting me into bat first. It's entirely up to him.
I will pick first.
Okay.
I was looking at one and I was like, I think I'll take that first, and then I scrolled down and was like, oh wait, no, let me take the Kansas City Chiefs to decimate the Chicago Bears, shall we say?
I'll be amazed if the point spread isn't 13.5 points.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, could and probably should be the most one-sided game in certainly my lifetime. The Bears could be one of the worst teams I've ever seen.
I'm seeing Bagel in this game.
The only other team I can think that was this bad was that season where the Browns went 0-16.
Yeah. Who was that? Who was the God?
And yeah, the Bears are just, they are pretty stinky. I don't like myself for doing this, but given the fact that their quarterback still hasn't cleared concussion protocol, I'm going to take the Ravens at home to the Colts as my first choice. Yeah, at the time of recording, I believe Anthony Richardson was still in concussion protocol for the Colts, so can't practice in a minute. So even if he does clear concussion protocol, chances are he won't have practiced very much in the lead up to the game. And obviously the Ravens are at home. Tough sledding, guys. Tough sledding. My second selection of the week, I will take the Jacksonville Jaguars at home to the Houston Texans. your 2 selections, please, Mr. Cook.
Well, as soon as he's on the podcast, I'm going to have to take the San Francisco 49ers to beat the New York Giants.
So sorry for that curse that Mr. Cook has just put on your team, Matthew.
You didn't pick up the Bills? Did you pick up the Bills?
I did not.
Then I will take the Buffalo Bills to defeat the... it is a 2-0 Washington Commanders, but it is the Buffalo Bills.
I'm quite happy there, because that definitely wasn't the game that I was eyeing up as the kind of the banker. So I will take the Dallas Cowboys at the Arizona Cardinals as my 3rd selection. And closing out my 4 picks, the pickings are not quite as plentiful now.
No.
I will take the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, you swine! I thought I was going to sneak that one under the radar.
Against the Panthers. That just leaves your last selection, please, sir.
Okay. For all of the years, for all of this time, I honestly thought I would never say the Detroit Lions to beat the Atlanta Falcons. And yes, that is a 1-1 team beating a 2-0 team. But again, something I never thought I'd say is I kind of been enjoying Lions football. I don't know if either of you have been aware of the stats coming out of the Jared Goff area, but he's putting some stats up there. 303 yards at the weekend, and
Well, in the stats that Matt gave out, obviously there was the fact that he'd thrown his first pick in 300 odd pass attempts and stuff like that. I was saying this to the Steelers fan that I was chatting to. I was saying, I mean, he's not a terrible quarterback, to be honest with you. He took the Rams to a Super Bowl. I mean, he was an overall number 1 pick. So there's clearly a player in there.
He's got the touch of the Eli Manning about him. You look at him and he looks like a dopey fucker, and he does something boneheaded every now and again. And and I think it was just that kind of. I think the unfortunate thing for him was Sean McVay walked through the door, who's like offensive guru, and was just like, "Yeah, I'm out on him. Can we get rid of him?" And they were kind of like, "Well, we've kind of just given him a massive contract, so no." And he's like, "Ah, shit. Well, I'll do the best that I can with him, but if I can get Matthew Stafford and you can trade him to Detroit, is that all right?" And they went, yeah, that'll do, kind of thing. We'll win a Super Bowl. He's not terrible, but he's just not.
I still want to see the financials for that Super Bowl.
I don't know if there's any truth in this, but apparently, I'm sure that someone had said that everything was absolutely fine between McVay and Goff until Goff saw McVay's girlfriend and said something like, "Ooh yeah, wouldn't mind a little go on that," or something like that.
I heard something very similar to that.
Or something to that effect.
Now that could just be a little rumour mill pot stirring kind of situation. But I heard the same, so I'm like, hang on a minute.
Within earshot of McVay, or
I don't know if it was one of those ones where he said it and he didn't know that either McVay was in the room or could hear what he was saying. It might have been something as stupid as he'd forgotten that he was mic'd up or something like that. And he said it when he was mic'd up.
Further proves my point. Looks like a dumb.
Don't be fast. Andy, you'd said something about you potentially wanted to look into making like something like where the side bet was opened up to the guest. Obviously, not to sort of pick a selection, but we could always like sort of argue it. Of the teams we've picked, which would you feel more comfortable backing?
Yeah, so that was what I'd sort of looked at. I was like, I think we did something at some point. I feel like it was back end of last season. We gave the guest the opportunity to pick who they thought was going to win the week. Obviously, you'd have to relay the 4 games versus the 4 games. And it's a bit tricky if it's a situation where you're like, well, those 2 games are definite, and those 2 are definite. The other 2,
Yeah. I'll just quickly recap what we picked. So Andy's 4 teams. He's got the Chiefs at home to the Bears, the 49ers at home to the Giants, the Bills at Washington, and the Lions at home to the Falcons. I've got the Ravens at home to the Colts, the Jags at home to the Texans, the Cowboys at the Cardinals, and the Seahawks at home to the Panthers. So obviously, you'd like to think that we've basically sort of picked 4 games each where it's kind of one-sided-ish. But of the 2 sets of 4, which would you feel were the most sort of likely to happen?
I'm going to go with Andy's, I think.
Okay.
I think, who are the Ravens playing?
The Ravens are playing the Colts.
And then the
I suppose
Jags.
From a like sort of a historical perspective, it's probably a game that's got a little bit of needle to it because obviously the Colts used to be in Baltimore, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Yeah, the Seahawks and the Jags are the 2 that I'd look at kind of potentially screwing you, and the Lions would be the ones that I'd be pretty would be the one that I think would screw Andy. So, well, I'm a bit more sure about the 49ers, Bills, and Chiefs. So I'm going to go Andy's selection.
Cool. So I've put a little asterisk next to Andy's name in the book, as we'll if it comes to it, we'll decide whether that means anything from like a Pickham's perspective. No, so that brings us to an end, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, with not speaking for Mr. Cook, but I'd just like to extend our gratitude to our first official guest of the season, Mr. Matthew Moore. Thank you very much for clearing your schedule to join us to talk a little NFL action.
No bother.
And then obviously the last thank you is to you, lovely people, for watching or listening along to us. Join us again next week where we'll break it all down once again, and you never know, we might have another different guest on for you. But until then, you keep yourselves busy and keep yourselves out of trouble, and we'll see you this time next week. Tatty man.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Big thank you to our guest, Mr. Matthew Marr. Big thank you to you for listening. Big thank you to you for being here. If I can just ask you a couple of things before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Check out the website, cookiecast.com. Social media links, email button. You can get in touch with us. Send us your predictions. Send us anything. If it's good, we'll read it out. If your predictions get through to us, we'll add them to the book. All of that good stuff. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
This has been another episode of CookieCast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.